Hey there, welcome to Synth Seeker. My name's Luke. No intro today. This is just a really fast, unscripted sort of instructional tutorial into Ableton Live, specifically the intro version. Now, I use Ableton Studio, and I'm on several Discord servers full of music making people, and there's been some discussion around, people are getting copies of Live Lite with hardware they're buying, and they're trying it out, and they're like, this is cool. I want to know more. What should I do? Should I get Live Intro or Live Standard or Live Suite? The price range is quite dramatically different, right? And I just wanted to highlight for my friends, basically, who are trying to make this decision and say, hey, you don't need the standard or the suite editions to make good synthesizer music or electronic music. You can do everything you need to do, or 95, 6, 7, 8, 9, close to 100, but maybe not 100%. But you can get a lot done using just Live Intro. And to that end, I've built a little 3-track set here with some chains of effects and instruments in here. Just to demonstrate what you can do. And so what I'm going to do is I've deconstructed it all, and I'm going to work forward, starting with, just very basic sounds, layer effects and instrumentation on it using the built-in stuff, only things that are available in Live Intro, okay? And just sort of demonstrate what you can do with this. Now, the primary instrument in Live, in this lowest tier of Live, is the simpler instrument, which is a simple sampler. Okay, I had just done a video on sampling, and that's sort of that dovetailed into this discussion. So what I've got here is I've got 3 tracks. Each one has a simpler instrument and a whole bunch of effects on it. None of these effects are unavailable. They're all available in the lowest tier of Live, in Live Intro. And I'm just going to walk through these. I do have one external effect on one track here. I am using the Valhalla Supermassive Black Hole reverb for that space cosmic reverb, because it is free, and you can go get a copy. Although the reverb that comes with Live Intro is very serviceable, and you'll hear it on the other 2 tracks. Okay, so let's get started. So I've got a very simple clip here. Okay, it's just playing 4 little notes here. This is a pad. Okay, I'm going to start it playing, and it's not going to sound right. Okay, here we go. All right, that's it. That's that pad looping. And it's running into the simpler instrument. Now, what is in the simpler instrument as far as what samples in there? Well, that is a saw waveform, and there's several waveforms come with Live Intro. Put one in there. You can build your own little synth out of the sampler. It's a little 1 oscillator synth. Alternatively, if you want more options, you can go out to the internet and search for the phrase single cycle waveforms in C, the letter C, okay? There's a lot of libraries out there with little samples, little single waveform cycles that are tuned to different notes, or some of them need work. Some of the largest libraries, they need a little tuning, and tuning is sort of a pain in simpler. Tuning among octaves is easy, but getting some of the fine tune down can be a pain. So you want to go find ones that are in C and pick a sawtooth one, and you just drop it in here, and you've basically got your instrument at that point. You've got a little, right? Now within simpler, there's a lot of stuff packed in here that you can't see immediately. If you open up with this little toggle here, you're going to get your waveform up there and your waveform manipulation stuff. You're going to have to RTFM. I'm not going to cover all the details in here. But within simpler, it's a full subtractive synth. There is a filter, 24 or 12 dB per octave filter with different variations, different emulations of different kind of filters. Okay, and some of them have drive, some of them don't. Some are resonant, some are not. Some are resonant but squelchy. So like there's a TB clone in there. If you like 303, you can do that. You can enable or disable the filter. You're going to have to read the manual there, but it does have an LFO built in for manipulating things like volume, pitch, pan, and the filter frequency. And then there's an amplitude envelope. So it's a fully functional, fully voiced synthesizer. I just happen to have thrown a sawtooth waveform in there as opposed to something larger. You could put a sample of an instrument like a guitar or a piano in there and play that. But we're just going to use it as a synth, okay? So we've got that. And then behind that synth, much like any synth that you would buy, there are extra modules for effects. So let me start this playing again. I'm going to start adding these effects one at a time. All right, so there it's playing. First thing I'm going to do is add a little auto pan. Right, that is built into Live Intro. Then Live Intro comes with an excellent chorus ensemble. All right. Then I'm going to skip over, there is an LFO device. So if you like having a lot of modulation, if you like synths with a big modulation matrix and a lot of LFOs, you could put as many LFOs in here and you can route them to anything. Each LFO can be routed to, I think, up to 8 different targets. Now I'm going to turn on this phaser flanger. And I'm going to route that LFO to the feedback knob on the phaser flanger. And so as we see this cycle up, you see the feedback coming up. All right, so that's just a small modulation we've got going there for demonstration. Then we're going to run it into a delay. All right, you could set your delay times. You could do it by musical timing, or you can do it by frequency in hertz. You can apply a filter to the reverberations there, to the echoes. And then I'm going to run it into this big Valhalla reverb. All right, and then we've got a simple pad. Now, let's pause that. Let's do the same thing. We're going to look at the next instrument, okay? The next instrument is a Pluck. I've done the same thing. I've got simpler with a sawtooth single cycle waveform in it. The only difference here is I've set up the envelopes to be a Pluck, right? A fast attack, a little decay. Same for both the filter and the amplitude envelope, okay? Now let's turn this Pluck into a Berlin School style ducka ducka Pluck, because that's what I do when it's easy. So let's start this one playing. Now this clip is, again, just these same 4 notes, except this one's out of tune, right? Well, in Ableton, all the versions of Ableton, I can turn that into a chord with the MIDI chord plugin. Right, so it takes that note, shifts it up an octave and up a fifth. It's still out of tune, but we'll get to that in a second. I'm going to feed that into the MIDI arpeggiator. So Ableton's arpeggiator is very powerful. Lots of different styles, lots of variations on rate, gate length, octave spread, things like that. What you want to re-trigger it. And then I'm running that into this scale mode. I'm going to force it to the Dorian mode. There we go. That's more like what we want. And then that MIDI is then feeding into our sawtooth, giving us our arpeggiated plucks. And there's some auto pan. And a little chorus. And I'm going to leave beat repeat. I'll come back to that in a minute, but let's turn some delay on. There's your duckas. Now beat repeat is sort of like, it's listening to your audio feed. This is like 10 years ago this came out, or maybe even longer. And this is sort of like some of the habit or the Chase Bliss sort of behavior, algorithmic repetition, done in the small. And it's pretty useful. Well, you listen to it. You hear that? That's what beat repeat does. It's listening to the music, sampling it, and then randomly sort of repeating it and mangling it a little bit. And then I'm going to apply another delay on top of that. Now, the first delay is doing dotted eighths. The second delay is doing a half note and a dotted quarter note. And then we're going to put a long tail reverb on it. This is Ableton's built-in reverb. And I've got it not quite like a black hole reverb, but I want some high shimmer that's being sort of chopped, right? So it sounds like you're in a, I don't know, like a warehouse. And then I'm going to take all those reverberations and I'm going to apply a phaser to that. So now the reverberations have that sort of spacey feel to it. All right. And that's that instrument. Okay. So you can do a lot. All right, now let's move on to our third and final sort of instrument. We're going to do a bass. Again, same thing. I've got a saw wave I put in here. This is the saw wave that's right out of Ableton, actually. Let's get this going. Again, bass line wise, it's just the same clip. Okay. Again, I've got an off note. I'm going to force it to the Dorian mode, and I'm going to arpeggiate that bass. Now the arpeggiator here, I'm only playing single notes, so it's not arpeggiating a chord. I've got the octave set so that it repeats two 12-step arpeggiations, so it's just playing three notes an octave apart. And I've got it set so that it re-triggers every half note. It re-triggers the pattern. All right. Again, the bass is just a sawtooth wave that's being filtered as a low pluck on the filter and then a sustained out for the bass. It's basically like an organ waveform. Now, included with Ableton Intro is the saturator. And it provides all sorts of different kinds of clipping and saturation. I think I like that. A little chorus on it. Right, this is this chorus setting is closer to like a Roland Juno style, not exactly, but closer. And then we'll give it a little delay. There we go. And there's our bass part. So if we start all those clips. So this is done entirely in Live Intro, using only effects from Live Intro, barring the Valhalla reverb on the pad. And I haven't even scratched the surface. I'm using, 20% of what's available in Live Intro. They give you a ton of stuff. So if you're trying to decide, you don't want to go with intro because you feel you'll be too limited, other than track count, which I think it's limited to a certain number of tracks, from a device perspective, I think it's perfectly fine. So don't be afraid to take a small step rather than a giant leap into Ableton, because I don't want my friends to have buyer's remorse. So this was just an example. Okay. So that's about it. So my friends who who you are out on the various Discord servers, I hope this is useful for you. And for those of you who knew all this and I'm being Captain Obvious, that's okay. This is just a quick unscripted video to try and help some of my friends out. And so, hey, thanks for watching. For future people who are trying to make this decision, they're coming here. This was Ableton version 11. When they're at 12 or 13 or something, this video may be less relevant. But until then, thanks for watching. And this has been Synth Seeker. Have a good week.